Did you see an Indian with an iPod? That'd be hilarious.
When you were so
You couldn't play Xbox.
You were held up in the corner.
Try it if you want. But be careful. Hold this steady. Don't move it. Strike against it. Don't hit this edge, because if you do, you're going to cut your hand. Watch your knuckles. There you go. Yeah. Got it. See, any of those sparks caught in this charred linen, and you've got...
Stop.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm here with Captain Lewis, and we're here with this thing. What is this?
Well, this is a bull boat. And a bull boat is simply willow branches that have been lashed together, and then a buffalo hide stretched over those willow branches.
What was it usually used for?
Well, it was used for transporting people and goods. The Mandan Indians had them in North Dakota. And when Lewis and Clark came through there on the way to the Pacific coast, they found the Mandans using them, and they were amazed at how efficiently they moved.
Would they actually have this on like
on the Missouri River?
On a river? This would be like a boat?
That's right. It's a boat. It's a bull boat. It's a willow branches with a buffalo hide stretched over the willow branches, and the hide hardens, but it's completely waterproof, water sealed, but doesn't leak.
Yeah.
The tail of the buffalo would mark the stern of the boat, and one person could get in it. They paddled very easily, maybe two, or one with some goods or equipment. And then they admired the boat so much, and then coming down. Coming down the Yellowstone River, Captain Clark needed a way to get down the river, so we had several of these built, and the men came down the Yellowstone in these bull boats.
So basically it's like a medieval canoe.
That's right.
Okay, well, this is Captain Lewis. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm here with Josh, and he is, what Indian?
Shawnee.
Shawnee, okay. Well, what we wanted to kind of talk about was culture. So can you do anything that was really interesting about like what type of culture that you researched?
Well, the Shawnee were part of the Algonquin Eastern Woodland Nations, so their culture would be very different than the Sioux or the Plains. They had, you know, the Mohawks, and they lived in eastern in the woodlands, so their styles were different. Instead of in teepees, they lived in wigwams and dome-shaped lodges.
Oh, so then it would kind of like, whenever were they kind of like moving, like nomadic, or?
Not really. They had pretty permanent villages.
Oh, so then, what would they usually do to like? Were they hunters or gatherers? Were they both? Or?
Well, they did plant and have some gardens. And they hunted if need be, because meat was very important. Traditionally, they hunted with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I kind of noticed your piece right here. Like, yes. How would they usually like? Was it just like classical like skinning, or was it just?
Well, when it came to culture, they used everything within their natural resources that the Creator gave them, like most nations. So they usually dressed themselves with deer hides and things. And as the Europeans came, they started to trade for type of cloth and shirts. The bear is very significant in our culture. One of our 7 clans was the Bear Clan. Oh. And that's who I'm a part of, is the Bear Clan. It was the Medicine Clan.
Well, for like speaking of like the religions, like, you know, like whatever Mother Nature gave you, did they kind of just base it off Mother Nature? You know, like that was just their religion?
Well, the part of their spirituality was being one with nature type of thing, and using what the Creator gave them and not wasting anything. Our creations, part of some of the creation stories you hear, one is that the North American continent was the land was put on the back of a giant turtle. And so a lot of times you'll hear North America referenced as the Great Turtle Island.
Oh, okay, well that's pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Thank you very much.
This is Josh.
Have a good day. Paselo.
Well, what inspired you to become a historical reenactor?
Well, at a very young age, my grandfather was getting us involved in historic reenacting. And by blood, I am Irish, Shawnee, and Cherokee. So initially, I went and traveled with the Lewis and Clark expedition for that reenactment. And when I was done, I decided that I would like to get more into the native aspect and started doing French and Indian War time period. And so the main reason was, well, I have a fascination with history, but then also because it's part of my heritage as well.
Isn't the Cherokee, that's much farther south than the Ohio River Valley?
Exactly. And so the Cherokee comes from my my mother's side, who are down in the West Virginia area, and the Shawnee comes from my mother's father's side, who is from Ohio.
So your Irish side came over.
My sixth great grandfather came over from Ireland right before the Revolutionary War. So it's a big melting pot, just like a lot of these people are all different nations. I'm predominantly 3 different nations. Cut!
Now, I'm here with Hugh McNeil, and I'm here to ask about what kind of weapons that Lewis and Clark and their expeditioners might have used on the expedition. Like this. What is this?
Okay, this is a replica of Captain Clark's sword. It's a type of sword called a hanger. You can see it's fairly elaborate, and in exploring there's not a whole lot of use for a sword like this. And so primarily this would be worn when they were meeting a new Indian tribe and establishing relations. They would all put on their best uniforms, and part of Captain Clark's best uniform was the sword.
So he kind of did that to impress the natives.
Yeah, and because what they were doing on the expedition, they were the first representatives of the United States to contact these other nations, and so they had to be ambassadors, and they had to really go all out to impress them.
I see. Now, aside from decorative weapons, what other kind of conventional tools they have used?
Most of the men in the expedition were privates in the army, and so they brought with them 69 caliber musket. There were a number of men who weren't in the army. Captain Clark recruited in Ohio and Kentucky a number of good hunters, and they would have brought along their hunting rifles, usually made in Virginia or Kentucky.
I see. Now, there are other kind of guns that, besides those, what kind of unique, very not so much conventional weapons that they have brought along with them? A signaler, anything like that.
One of the things they used, and we have a replica over here, was called a blunderbuss or a swivel gun. It's like a kind of a cross between a cannon and a shotgun, mounted on the bow of a boat, and it's swiveled around like this on a pivot, and you can aim it in any direction. It was used for signaling, but in wartime it was used to scatter the men who were on the deck of a ship, to knock them down in preparation for boarding the ship.
I see. Well, this has been very enlightening. Thanks for talking to me.
Well, you're welcome.
What kind of education have you had for this Lewis and Clark expedition, and what education do you plan to continue having?
Well, I started reenacting when I was still in middle school, at a very young age, and just kept going to regular school just like any normal kid while I went and did stuff in the summer and on weekends. But knowing I wanted to partake in the bicentennial in 2003, I graduated high school a year early at the age of 16 to do it, working with my school and trying to maintain my grades. So I graduated when I was 16, and I turned 17, and a week later went to do Lewis and Clark. So I was gone for 3 years, and I waited another year. I had an accident, I broke my leg. So I put off college for 4 years, and now I'm currently in college. I just got my associate's degree in history, and now I'm finishing up my bachelor's, and I also plan to get my master's immediately after that.
After that, do you continue to plan doing things like this, reenactments?
Hopefully, it's my dream one day to find a way to continue to do living history, but at a professional level. Maybe hopefully make it part of my living, so that I really think living history is a good way to reach people, especially people who aren't really into history as much and don't like sitting down and reading a book with just names and dates. So I think this is a good way to reach people, and I'd like to do it on a larger scale someday.
All right, well, thanks for talking with us
Thank you
again,
very
Josh.
much.
Josh, and Josh, what can you tell us about your clothes?
My clothes are representative of about the time, about the mid-18th century, around the 1750s, when Indians were still wearing very much their traditional clothing, but were now acquiring new clothing from Europeans, like their cloth, different things like this. They were now getting new beads, metal knives, they started trading for metal knives. Before, most of their knives were made from flint. Also, my shoes, I took them off of a body, a guy who didn't need them anymore. So, much of their clothing, traditionally, was made from either trees or also skins from animals that they would kill for food and also for tools. They would take like the skin of a deer, they would tan that, that's what they would make their moccasins and their breechcloths and things out of, and leggings. But as time changed and they acquired new things from the Europeans, they would make clothing out of those. There's even documentation of where Indian men would get dressed in women's clothing, but they didn't realize it's for women and they would wear it anyway.
How about celebrations? Did you have to wear some specific like clothes?
Sometimes, that's a very good question. Sometimes in celebrations or in ceremonies, they would wear certain things or they would put certain paint on and do certain things for celebrations. Certain feathers would be worn or a certain type of paint. Because they painted themselves every day, which is where the term red man comes from. It wasn't because their skin was red, it's because they put red paint on their bodies almost on a daily basis. And sometimes when they would go to war, they would do different designs. And sometimes for celebrations or ceremonies, they would do different things as well. So normally, yes, they did tend to do that for certain things.
So you have different type of earrings, like decorations?
Some earrings and things were specifically just like a daily thing. But certain tattoos were earned or done for certain specific occasions. Some were for protection. But if you ever saw a person and they had a tattoo that traditionally they shouldn't have had, so if they were literally lying by saying, well, they had a tattoo that says that they were certain things they weren't, they would cut it off of them. Because lying was a very big offense in their culture. So you only did things always in a truthful manner because it was to remind you that it wasn't all about you, it was about the people, it was best for the people.
So now that you talk about tattoos and special occasions, did you have to like do something to become a man?
Yes, that's a very good question as well. They did have a coming of age ceremony. So as a young boy growing up, you would have very long hair and you would start to learn how to become a man. And once they decided, okay, you would become a man, our people would send you up. You would fast for a day, you wouldn't eat, and we'd send you up into the hills or into the woods, and you would go on a vision quest where you'd stay up all night and now you're hungry and you have no water and you're dehydrated and you would go on a vision. And usually on these vision quests you would find your spirit guide, your animal that would help lead you on your path of manhood. And when you came back, they would do ceremonies. Sometimes they would do a scratching ceremony like this, where they would take a jawbone of a garfish and they would scratch you with it. Also, that's when they would sit you down and they would put ash on your head and they would pull all the hair off of your head except for that crown and give you like a mohawk or a scalp lock, and that was a sign of a warrior, of a man.
Wow. And you heard it from Josh? Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Edwin.
Steven.
Adam.
Alex.
Austin.
Jack.
Wyatt.
Thank you, Josh.